Speaking of taking shots on quarterbacks, let's talk about the other guys that went on days 2 and 3. So rounds 2 through 7, a total of 11 quarterbacks went on between the second and third days. So excluding just Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, who went in the first round. So let's start with what was at the time the most interesting pick, which was Tyler Shuck. Goes 40th overall, polarizing, absolutely polarizing prospect.
Yes.
But he goes 40th
Yes.
overall and really set the tone for Shadur's fall. What was your immediate thoughts to that?
Like you said, very polarizing prospect, and I would lean towards more of the negative side of his evaluation. I didn't do full evaluations on each prospect. Hopefully, at some point with this channel, we can do that and give our honest reactions to these players. But listen, Tyler Shuck has some ugly plays on tape, man. Like out of this class, like even Cam Ward has some ugly plays, but Tyler Shuck's plays are just like out of this world ugly, man. So I mean, listen, they clearly liked the guy. And again, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. You got to take chances at QB, but in my opinion, there was probably higher upside QBs on the board than a guy like Tyler Shuck. And with the 40th overall pick, man, and again, we talked about this on our last episode in, I believe, the round one recap or the mock draft, whatever it was. The Saints don't have a starter right now, man. Derek Carr is
Yep.
out for the 2025 season. And the only other guy on the roster that could potentially start is Spencer Rattler. So they're drafting Tyler Shuck at number 40 overall to compete for the starting job next year. Like that's the expectation. Unless something changes with Derek Carr's injury, like he's gonna have a real chance to compete for this job. Which, dude, if you told me out of the QBs drafted this year that Cam Ward and Tyler Shuck would be the two day one starters, I would laugh in your face, to be completely honest with you, man. Like Tyler Shuck wasn't even really on my radar during the college season as a potential quarterback to be taken. But again, you have to take a chance on the position. The Saints right now have Carr, who is hurt, but even Carr is not their future. Like Derek Carr is not the future of the Saints. They still need a franchise quarterback. So I don't hate taking the chance on the quarterback. I just personally, I probably would have gone with a different one.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for context, he's 70th on the consensus board. Jalen Milroe is ranked ahead of him for the athleticism wise. That's what stands out. And that's the thing with the Shuck that it's an interesting pick where he doesn't necessarily have anything that stands out from like an arm talent perspective, athleticism. He's also older. He's been in college for a while, so he's like 25 years old. I think when the season starts, roughly is what he'll be. So you're also drafting a guy to kind of be your guy who's not going to have as much time. That was surprising. And to your point, he will be essentially. I mean, I'm sure they're going to say somebody, Spencer Rattler or whatever they do in free agency before training camp will be our starter. But more than likely, I would be shocked if this guy's not starting by week 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of pressure now too as a second round pick. But a lot of smoke started to come out, and I think Schefter tweet, maybe Daniel Jeremiah or Ian Rappaport, one of them was talking about how the Saints seem to like him a lot, and they proved that by grabbing him there, and that was what then triggered the Shadur fall, and then everything after that was essentially people just kind of waiting. Okay, when is he going to go? So the next QB off the board then was Jalen Milroe. So he was the consensus QB 4 behind Ward, Sanders, and Dart. Goes to the Seahawks in the third round, which I talked about this a little bit with you, where it's like I think I'd seen so many mock drafts earlier in the season when the Seahawks had a losing record that were projecting Milroe to try to be like a top 15 pick that put him there. So I think it is an interesting fit for him, but and decent value I think for that
Yeah,
spot.
listen, I actually liked this pick quite a bit because he doesn't have pressure to go start. That's really the difference
Right.
between him and Tyler Shuck right now. I mean, Sam Darnold's their guy for the foreseeable future. I mean, they signed him to what, a 3-year deal. So I mean, there is absolutely no pressure for Jalen Milroe to start. So guess what? He gets to be kind of like a Jalen Hurts when he was drafted. A little bit different players. Did play at the same schools at some point, but they can develop as passers. Like that's Milroe's thing. Like Milroe is a special athlete with special arm talent, but he's just not an accurate passer of the football right now. He makes poor decisions. But if you have 2 or 3 years to develop under a guy like Sam Darnold, who, he's kind of a question mark going into next season, but he just came off his career year. I think that would be really good for Milroe, man. I think, in the third round, this is the kind of pick I love in the third round, because it's like, listen, third round picks at, say you make a third round pick at a running back. Those don't work out all the time, or linebacker. Those don't work out all the time. But when you take it at a quarterback, when it does work out, okay, a third round running back, when he works out, it's like, yeah, that's solid. Or a linebacker, you get a starter in the third round. But if you hit on a quarterback in the third round, dude, the amount of value you get from that is just unbelievable, man. That's just, again, it's the most valuable position. So really, in the third round, dude, you can take whoever. I'm like, okay, listen, I get it. You're taking a chance on a guy, and I think Milroe has the tools. He has the tools, and so again, that's why I think it's the perfect situation for him, because a guy with the tools, but just hasn't put it together yet. That's a perfect opportunity for that guy to sit behind a good NFL starter for 2 or 3 years and develop and potentially become the future franchise quarterback.
Absolutely. And, funnily enough, Seahawks have a track record of drafting guys in the third round and it working out. A little bit different, obviously, but that was where they drafted Russell Wilson at in 2012. And that, kind of, honestly, very similar. It's kind of crazy how alike that is to what happened then. A bit different because Matt Flynn was who they had signed at that point, who was coming off of basically one good game where he threw like 6 touchdowns for the Packers. But they sign him to a contract and then turn around, draft Russell Wilson in the third round. So it is kind of interesting how similar this situation is to that. And I agree. Taking a shot on a guy that has the athleticism in today's NFL is always worth it. And hoping, you can develop him as a passer, and having some time to sit behind Darnold and just sit and learn in general will benefit him a ton. But yeah, I think it was a good pick, and we'll see how he looks in preseason and whatnot. The next 2 guys off the board were Gabriel and Sanders. We'll skip them after touching on them, and then we can touch on a few of these guys at a high level. But the QBs in general just kind of went lower than what the consensus had. So Kyle McCord was then the next guy off the board after Shedeur, who was a 132 on the consensus. Goes to the Eagles to be a backup. A lot of these guys are getting drafted into situations to immediately be a backup. Except for the one after him, Will Howard.
Yeah.
Steelers passed on a QB over and over and over again and then take Will Howard in the 6th round.
I think Will Howard is probably the most interesting because he has the clearest path to the field. Just to touch on Kyle McCord before I get into Will Howard, though, that's a great situation to be in, man. It's a loaded roster. Oh, yeah. You get to sit behind Jalen Hurts and develop. And dude, you never know. These guys, if they develop for a few years, they could potentially get their chance somewhere else. So I think I just love that situation for him. But Will Howard has an opportunity to play this year. It really depends on what Aaron Rodgers does. Like, yeah. Will Howard could be this starter day one, man. That's just crazy to say. But right now they have Mason Rudolph, and he's just, again, kind of like Kenny Pickett. That's not a viable starting quarterback. And the Steelers are not a team that team's looking to win every year, man. Like, every team is in a sense, but you can kind of tell when a team's not as worried about being competitive, let's just say. But the Steelers want to make the playoffs every single year, and that's kind of Mike Tomlin's thing. So, Will Howard could potentially be the guy. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't sign, I just see them targeting someone else, like a more experienced guy, like a Kirk Cousins or Will Levis has been mentioned for them. But yeah, Will Howard's interesting because if everything falls apart for the Steelers, Rodgers doesn't sign, they can't pick up another veteran, then Will Howard could literally be the starting quarterback for this team, which I'll be honest, man, I don't like that as a starting option. I think this is the kind of guy that needs time to develop. But at the end of the day, though, they could be looking at, hey, national championship winning quarterback, and he started to get better at the end of the year, man. Like, come the playoffs, he had an unbelievable run in the playoffs where he was part of the reason Ohio State went on that run. Yeah, they have all the great receivers and whatnot, but he played his best ball when it mattered most. So I like that intangible of him, but as far as like a starter right away, I wouldn't like that. I'd like him to sit behind a guy and develop.
Absolutely, yeah. And McCord, yeah, going to the Eagles, getting to sit behind Hurts. You're probably playing week 17 and 18 a little bit once they've locked up their playoff spot. And you go out there and play. It's a nice gig to have. Yeah, the Will Howard one is interesting. I mean, to me, it says, and I think it may have been Ian Rappaport. Somebody said that like the Steelers feel pretty good about Rodgers. Like he just hasn't done it yet. But I mean, he's not on your roster. Like that is what we know for sure. So as of right now, your QB1, I guess, is Mason Rudolph, and now Will Howard is the other guy. So I do like the pick, the value there in the 6th round. And he did play his best in the playoff. I mean, his PFF grade was fantastic in that playoff run. Absolutely tore apart our Vols. We watched that in person. He was on fire in that game.
Yeah.
So he looked great. So yeah, it'll be fascinating to watch what happens. And then, I mean, he'll have an opportunity. I mean, depending on what Rodgers even does, I mean, there's a chance that he's their guy next year, because if Rodgers only plays for like another year, we don't know what he's going to do in general. So we know the Steelers aren't going to be drafting above top 18 because they're going to have a winning record. It's what they do. So that'd be interesting to see. Some of the other guys came off were, your Colts drafted Riley Leonard next in the 6th round. A lot went in the 6th. So Riley Leonard, Graham Mertz from Florida then goes. We have a little bias there, but he was 340th on the consensus board.
Bit of a reach.
Comes off in the 6th round, yeah. And then 2 other guys, so Cam Miller from North Dakota State comes off the board to the Raiders. And they also draft Tommy Mellon, a quarterback who will be playing wide receiver for the Raiders. We got to give him a shout, from Montana State. They had done their homework.
4.39.
Yeah, so that guy will be slotted in at receiver for them. So if you count him, then you have like 6 QBs come off the board in the 6th round there.
Yeah, a lot of QBs went off the board. Listen, it's none of these guys are going to play, but like I like Riley Leonard in the system with the Colts. Like that kind of QB, the running style kind of reminds me a lot of AR, just a raw passer, but is a good power runner. And so again, he fits the system. But he probably won't get a chance to play anytime soon. More of a developmental guy. Don't know much about Cam Miller, though. I'm kind of interested. He put up good numbers with North Dakota State, and North Dakota State also has a history of putting out good NFL talent, especially at the QB position. So I actually did watch him against Colorado and was pretty impressed, though. I remember I was pretty impressed in that game with Cam Miller. And then Curtis Wark and Quinn Ewers in the 7th. Quinn Ewers, interesting, man. A lot of QBs went before I thought Quinn would, to be completely honest. It was looking like for a while he might go undrafted. I like that as a pick for the Dolphins. That's one of the best, I would say, picks in the late rounds at QB, just because I think Quinn, 5-star coming out of high school, like he has a lot of upside, I would say. And come like middle of last college football season, people thought he was gonna be a 1st-round pick, man. He was one of the highest rated quarterbacks in this class at some points last year. So I like that pick a little bit. But again, he's a backup option. Like all these guys are backup options, obviously. But with his injury history, he could find himself on the field at some point next season. So that will be interesting to watch.
And again, it's all projection of what we don't know what these guys will become. But the quarterbacks being drafted at this point, we do know that you're slotted in to be a backup. That's what they see you as. Quinn Ewers is fascinating, though. The story for him and him coming out as a 5-star. I don't remember if he was exact. He may have been QB1 in that class.
I believe he was.
Goes to Ohio State and then transfers to Texas, and he was still 123rd on the consensus board and goes in the 7th round there at pick. Let's see here. Pick 231.
Yeah.
So he goes basically 110 roughly picks after what his consensus was. So it's interesting. I'm surprised that he fell that far. I mean, even just going into this season, and even at the beginning of the season, mock drafts had him consistent in the 1st, or like at the worst, it's like, oh, he's a 2nd-round quarterback. What I do wonder now, I love the pick from the Dolphins' perspective, because to your point, like to his health, you got to have a solid backup, and having a young guy that could potentially develop, because we don't know if Tua does have another injury, how long he can keep playing. So having a young guy that may be able to develop. So yeah, and then it makes you wonder how much regret there may be about him not coming back. Because obviously, I don't know if he was going to be able to play at Texas. I think they were ready to move on to Arch, but he could have transferred and played another season. And I do wonder how much him and his camp may kind of wish they had done that in hindsight. So, um, looks like we have question some stuff in the chat here. Why I fell so far, no big story, but I need not take on why he fell. Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest with you. It has nothing to do with his talent. That is the truth. I don't think. I mean, the evaluation on him probably ranges for some people. I think the lowest I've ever heard him is probably like in the 40s. But that means you are worth a second round pick at that point. So talent wise, he definitely has the skill set to be a quarterback worth taking a shot on in the late first round, early second. I think it's just everything else that came with him. And one of the reports that came out, he himself has since said that he could have handled the pre-draft process differently. And I think that says a lot about two things. One, a lot of the noise we heard, we avoid too much noise here with the hot takes, but a lot of the noise, at least we heard around how those interviews went with teams, were probably true. He's essentially admitting that. And it's also a good sign to say, you know, he's opening and being honest about that now, looking at it in hindsight, but you can't undo it. So now you got to live with those decisions that you made. But
Exactly. And it kind of speaks to what you were talking about earlier, Dakota, that this process could humble him. And if it humbles him, dude, I think if you can take kind of like the negative part of Shadur out, which is leadership questions and being more humble, because that's what it takes to be a franchise QB, man. A franchise QB is a humble guy who gives credit to teammates and doesn't tear them down. If you can take that out of Shadur, then all of a sudden, dude, like I mean, a fifth in the fifth round. I mean, you could actually have a franchise quarterback out of the fifth round, which would be phenomenal value. But yeah, to your other point about why he fell, listen, like he reportedly didn't talk to any team drafting outside of the top six. I mean, he wouldn't even meet with them. And when you don't meet with the majority of teams in the NFL, it's gonna rub them the wrong way, man. It's gonna rub them the wrong way, especially when, like, in all fairness, dude, yes, he was first round worthy as far as talent's concerned, but there's no question that they're like top six. I don't think a lot of people had that kind of evaluation of him. Like, I really don't. He wasn't that talented of a quarterback. He doesn't have like a big arm or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, if you don't talk to teams, dude, that's going to rub a lot of them the wrong way. And I think that's what happened, dude. I mean, I think he upset a lot of teams in the process, and him already admitting that is honestly is a good thing for me. I mean, he already came out and admitted that. And if he continues to kind of go down that path of humbling himself, then I'm actually really excited about what he can possibly become in the next level.
yeah, and to my point, or like I think that's part of why teams let him fall is that he doesn't necessarily have any elite traits as a quarterback. I think if you take what Cam Ward is and added this stuff to it, we're probably looking at a different situation here. Like he probably does go higher, and it's not that he's not a good quarterback. It's just he has very good tape and he has the statistics. He has everything to back it up. It's just that he's not necessarily a great athlete. He doesn't really have like a strong arm like a Josh Allen, where like you're basically banking on creating accuracy and stuff. Like he does have pretty decent anticipation and whatnot, but it's just doesn't have anything that's elite. And that combined with because of that, you are more willing to let that fall down the board
Exactly.
and not deal with the other aspects. So I think all things considered, the people have talked about this on and off and constantly, but I'm fascinated to watch his career. And honestly, I kind of want to see how he handles this all and see what happens. So, yeah, appreciate the stuff in chat. Feel free to shoot in any questions, anything you want us to chat on as we continue. We will definitely touch on it. So any last thoughts on the QBs before we move on?
No, man. Interesting class. I'm interested to see kind of if any of these guys from the later rounds can potentially get a shot in the NFL. I mean, those are always fun stories.